listed here on Zoom hear me. We're gonna bring this meeting to order. So, Willie, I'm gonna jump ahead to your announcements if that's okay. If you need English to Spanish translation online, click the globe icon at the bottom. And actually, we're gonna ask Ms. DiMiasi if she can make this announcement for us. For in-person attendees needing translation, you can see Noemi at the River Center and Willie here at King Gillette Ranch for assistance. So, Ms. DiMiasi.
Thank you so much, Willie. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Soy Flor Di Masi con Global Speak Traducciones y esta tarde estaremos proporcionando interpretación simultánea al español. Para poder accesar esta función, favor de localizar el icono en la forma de mundo en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla. Una vez que lo hayan localizado, seleccionar español como su idioma de preferencia. Ahora comenzará usted a escuchar la interpretación en español. Es muy importante seleccionar modo silencio audio original para evitar escuchar ambos idiomas o ruidos de fondo. También voy a poner estas instrucciones vía en la chat line. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you, Willie.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to call this meeting to the order. It's the 514th joint meeting of the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and the Santa Monica Mountains Advisory Committee. And we'll kick it off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to ask Mr. Valencia here, he'd lead us in the pledge on behalf of our Assembly office.
Right hand over heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next, we have our land acknowledgement. The Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy holds lands that originally and are still inhabited by the Fernandino, Tatavian, Gabrielino, Tongva, and Ventureños Chumash. We honor and respect their elders and their descendants as they continue the stewardship of these lands and waters. We have a new member representing the City of Malibu and the Advisory Committee. Joe, if I can ask you to administer her oath of office.
Indeed. You raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I,
Haylynn Conrad,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation
without any mental
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion,
I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
congratulate.
Thank you.
I know some, I was going to say, Joe,
Might want to.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate being here. I am a Malibu City Council member. I was just elected the night of Franklin Fire, which was December 5th, and then we had Palace. The mountains are dear and near to my heart, and I'm really grateful to be here, and I appreciate you guys moving here so that I can accommodate here in Malibu. I am really excited to learn a lot from all of you. And just look forward to this. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
okay, thank you and welcome. We're going to go through and I don't know why I'm moving pretty quickly shortly, but let's go through roll call of the Conservancy first.
Mr. Gurrell? Mr. Alonji?
I'm here.
Mr. Luna?
Present.
Yeah, please speak into the microphone.
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Drake? Ms. Drake?
Here.
Mr. Fink?
Present.
Ms. Munoz?
Present.
Mr. Ortega?
Here.
Ms. Patley?
Here.
Mr. Veras?
Here.
Quorum is present. Oh, Ms. Bochco? Ms. Hutzel?
Here.
Mr. Torres? Quorum is present.
Okay, roll call of advisory.
First, could you call a roll call for the advisory committee, please?
Yes. Ms. Acker? Ms. Anderson? Ms. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Cacciati? Ms. Conrad?
Here.
Mr. Corridori? Mr. Dennert? Ms. Dransfeld?
Here.
Ms. Fossen?
Here.
Mr. Garand?
Here.
Ms. James?
Here.
Mr. Kishbaugh?
Here.
Mr. Kraut?
Here.
Mr. Lang? Ms. Lopez? Mr. Manukian? Ms. Micus?
Present.
Ms. Nelson?
Here.
Mr. Odubegian? Ms. Rosen?
Here.
Mr. Rossman?
Present.
Ms. Stevens? Mr. Wendler?
Here.
Mr. Yekparian? Ms. Newsom?
Here.
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Quorum is present, though I think for the record, Mr. Anderson online is not able to participate in voting from not being at a noticed location, just for the
Correct.
record. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And
John.
Mr. Cacciati has joined here as well.
Excuse me? Oh,
Mr.
Cacciati,
Cacciati.
thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, introduction of legislative participants or their staff.
Ryan Valencia, Assembly Member Irwin's office.
Declan Floyd with Assemblymember Harabedian's office.
Thank you, Declan. Okay. At this time, we'll be taking items out of, on the agenda out of order, and we'll hear public comments first, then our substantive voting items before we move on to oral reports. I do want to let everyone know that here at the Conservancy, obviously, we want to make sure that the public feels as welcome as possible to participate, being at meeting locations, being able to come in. We have a board and a body that extends from Malibu all the way out to the east side. And so our River Center location is essentially a block from a designated curfew zone. And so we were doing our best to not put anybody in a challenging position as they're leaving or coming to our meetings. And so while we're continuing to have the open locations for members of the public to get there and to be able to testify as well as our advisory and board members, in an effort to allow those that need to leave before our curfew time, we're going to move forward with items that are substantive and frankly related to funding projects that need to be voted on as much as possible, and then we'll allow without pressing or rushing the conversations to occur that happen on reports and other kinds of dialogue items. So there's no questions on that. We'll go ahead and move forward with public comment, and I want to encourage those that have public comments on the items that require votes to come forward first, and those that are just general body testimonies, if you can hold your public comment until we do those votes. So if you're online and haven't submitted your name in the Q&A box at the bottom of the Zoom screen, please do so now. Online attendees, sign up using the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom of your Zoom or bottom of the screen of your Zoom. If you are a phone-in only attendee, dial star to raise your hand. And then in-person attendees, please fill out a speaker's card at the back of the rooms and hand it to the staff members at both the River Center and King Gillette Ranch here. Individuals will have 3 minutes to speak, while those representing organizations have 5. Staff will notify you when you have 1 minute left. Do we have any members of the public signed up to speak? And
Mr. Chair, yes, we do. We have currently 3 online. The first speaker I'd like to call upon is by the name of Charming Evelyn. Charming, you have the floor.
Hello, I hope you can hear me. I'm
Yes.
very sorry, but I have a little bit of laryngitis, so I'm going to be really quick. I'm calling about item 12H, and one of the reasons is because as a Sierra Club member, I was very familiar and I was in that area of Eaton Canyon quite often, and I knew that Altadena really did not have a lot of open space. Applying for this grant because one of the things with Eaton Canyon gone, it normally takes nature decades really to recover. And a lot of that is based on topography and, of course, on climate. And we all know climate change is around. This is also a good opportunity for us to bring back a lot of open space into Altadena because, again, Eaton Canyon is going to take a long time to recover and to take a look at things like soil remediation and to acknowledge the fact that there are a lot of people who will not be able to build back, maybe because they didn't have insurance or their homes are not insured enough or they are on fixed incomes, retired or disabled. And so the point of this grant is really to work with the community to get research and to find out how we can really reintroduce open space into Altadena, taking into account what the community would like to see and working within the community. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Charming. The next online speaker is Harnawaz Boparai. Harnawaz, you have the floor.
Hi, I was just putting my name in there, just because people were saying, it was mentioned to put a name in the chat. That's all. My apologies.
That's all right, thank you. The next public speaker is Anastasia Komarovsk. Anastasia?
Hello, are you there? Hello? Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, so you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, my name's Ann Komarovsk. I'm from the city of Malibu, sayrabbit.com. And I'm glad you guys changed your meeting date. It's incredible how powerful our council member can be, Councilwoman Conrad. Once again, these meetings aren't available to watch after. You guys do them live. It requires a public records request, and I would hope that the board changes that so that the public can tune in. An example is today, I think we're having 2 meetings. We have a planning commission meeting and we have your meeting at the exact same time, and we can't be everywhere at once. Thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia. The next public speaker is Hugo Garcia. Hugo, you have the floor. Hugo, if you can unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, board members. My name is Hugo Garcia. I'm a lifelong resident of El Sereno and a member of Save Elephant Hill organization for over 20 years, where I currently serve as Director of Community Engagement. I'm also LA County District 1 Supervisor Hilda Solis, appointee to the County Fish and Wildlife Commission, although I'm not representing the commission at this meeting. Before I say anything else, I'd like to thank the Conservancy and MRCA for your conservation work in El Sereno. I'm here tonight to advocate to your board and support of the following. Section 12, discussion items F, consideration of resolution authorizing a grant to Save Elephant Hill for the Advancing Community-Centered Conservation Project at Elephant Hill in the city of Los Angeles. And G, item G, consideration of a resolution authorizing a grant to MRCA for acquisition project planning and design at Elephant Hill. Save Elephant Hill believes that your support is critical to protecting and conserving additional land on Elephant Hill. Your support will increase public access to this unique natural resource and create more opportunities for outdoor recreation like hiking and birding, and additional space for environmental education for children, families, and communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hugo. The next public speaker is Dan Pernick. Dan, you have the floor.
This is Dan.
Hi, Dan.
I'm Dan Pernick. I'm the general manager of the Rancho Simi Recreation and Park District, and I'm available in here for Mr. Dinnert's away this evening and here for item 12K for any questions that the committee or the board may have.
Thank you, Dan. The next public speaker is Deborah Browse. Deborah?
Thank you. Warm greetings. I'm calling about item 12H. My name is Devorah Browse. I'm the creator of From Soil to Soul. This is a regenerative consultancy which is committed to ecological repair and land healing and regenerative cultural practices. And I'd like to speak today in strong support for the California Conservancy Foundation's proposed grant to advance the post-Eaton wildfire recovery and long-term community resilience in Altadena. After a fire, visible damage is only part of the story, but what remains hidden in the soil are heavy metals and VOCs and dioxins and furans and PFAS and asbestos. And these all threaten to turn this region into a cancer cluster that can endanger health and biodiversity for decades to come. This grant has the potential to lead with science and stewardship and care through comprehensive soil testing and multi-phase soil remediation, which can really prevent further harm to a community that's been very traumatized. To that end, we're part of a coalition of trained soil scientists and healers and remediation experts that are already working on the ground and very ready to implement a phased plan of phytoremediation, biochar integration, and zeolite sequestration. These are proven strategies in fire-impacted ecosystems across the country. Bioremediation can take anywhere from 8 months to 2 years. It's not going to take 10 minutes. Additionally, this grant that's up for review can support researching land back opportunities so we can identify landowners that are not planning to rebuild, and we can explore the feasibility of restoring land to the Tongva people, the original stewards. This grant is so much more than disaster recovery. It's an opportunity to turn trauma into transformation, restoring land and culture and community through a model that's rooted in soil science, regenerative practices, and climate resilience. Thank you so much for giving me space and time to speak about this. I would love to list partners that are involved with this coalition so you can reach out to any of us if you have any further questions. I'm connected with the Southern California Bioremediation Coalition, Core Renewal, Plant Community LA, Studio Petrichor, Seeds of Hope, Fungal Solutions, Fungal Fix, SoilWise, LA Compost, and CAER. We are all very, very committed to bioremediation, and this grant will help us do a community model of regeneration. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next public speaker is Connor Everts. Connor, you have the floor. Connor, if you can hear me, please unmute.
All right, let me,
Hi, Connor, we can hear you.
okay. Thank you very much. Connor Everts for the Southern California Watershed Alliance and the Environmental Justice Coalition for Water. I think I've become the old man of water at this point after working with my mentors, Dorothy Green and Carla Bard. But my real focus is on the restoration possibilities and the expansion of open space, given the tragedies of the fire in Altadena, where I sit on the board of Amigos de los Rios, who will hopefully will speak here as well. You know, the connection of not only soil but water to these issues and the equity issues to me are the key points. So I want to thank you very much for this opportunity. I want to thank you for putting us early on the agenda, having given up at about 10:30 at night in Santa Monica's City Council last week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Connor. The next public speaker is Gabrielle Crow. Gabrielle.
Natwanene Gabrielle Crow. So hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Gabrielle Crow. I am the co-chair as well as the Secretary of Environmental Sciences for the Gabrielino Shoshone Nation. And I'm here this evening to speak on agenda item 12F regarding Save Elephant Hill. So many of you probably do not know that our tribe, the Gabrielino Shoshone, recently got back 2.5 years ago 12 acres that is actually named Chief Yana Regenerative Learning Village. And it's actually, those 12 acres are located directly across from Save Elephant Hill. My comment this evening is just to make sure that I know, looking at in the agenda items and the notes that are listed in there and the application for the $200,000 to go towards saving Elephant Hill. As a person that's been a career environmental educator, I know the importance of outdoor spaces, especially those in urban environments. But I also know, as an Indigenous person with ancestral ties to LA, I know how much our tribe has been pushed over in the process as far as development or restoration processes. And so I just wanted to make sure that this consultation with tribes actually happens in this process. I know that it is said that it's going to exempt itself from the CEQA process, but I don't think that this is what we should be doing in this. And I know for us, we only became informed about it after we saw the application go through and everything. So I just want to make sure that we're making tribes aware of what's going on. And even though we are restoring the process and restoring the area for a good purpose, I want to make sure that tribes are aware of everything that's happening during that restoration process. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabrielle. The next public speaker and the last online public speaker is Bo Savage. Bo, you have the floor.
Hi, I'm Bo Savage. I'm the Deputy Director at the LA Conservation Corps, and I'm here to thank the Conservancy for its longstanding support of the mission of the LA Conservation Corps, and thank the Conservancy for the consideration to put our young people in place to help with fire recovery and fire resilience in the Palisades and Brentwood area. Thanks.
Thank you, Bo. We do have, I believe, one public speaker in person at the River Center. Patricia, Noemi?
Yes, we do. Miss Elva Janes.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me? King Gillette, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Elva Yanez, and I'm board president of Save Elephant Hill. I would like to urge the Conservancy to vote in favor of items 12F and 12G, both of which focus on Elephant Hill in El Sereno. Item 12F would provide a grant to my organization to partner with recognized experts to help us develop an illustrated conservation vision document for Elephant Hill, develop materials to educate property owners, residents, and other stakeholders about how conservation-focused real estate works, and ensure community voices are represented in both processes. The other item, 12G, would provide resources to MRCA staff to undertake acquisition-focused project planning and design activities for Elephant Hill. Together, these items would advance a clear pathway for future conservation protections in El Sereno, and the goal we proposed at the March meeting to have the Conservancy acquire 25 additional acres on Elephant Hill with Prop 4 resources. These initial investments would also enable us to leverage additional resources from outside funders and agencies to further these shared conservation goals. On behalf of Save Elephant Hill and many El Sereno residents and organizational stakeholders, I thank you for your ongoing support over the years in advancing community-centered conservation. We are enthusiastic about expanding our partnership and look forward to an exciting new phase of this journey. Thank you. And I'll be around to answer any questions you have on the item. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it for our public? Any other members of the audience here in person or your last call? Okay, public's comments are closed. We're going to move forward with agenda item number 11, our consent calendar. Advisory report.
Yes, advisory committee reviewing the May 25 minutes. Are there any edits anyone needs to make or wants to make? If none, then may I have a motion to approve?
As a whole.
We're going to take it as a whole? Okay, we're going to take.
Louder, please. We can't hear you here.
That we're going to do them. Okay. So as Steve just said, we're going to take all of the consent calendar as a whole. Does anyone have any comments, questions?
Point of order, just if anybody wants to pull anything, they can.
Correct.
But if not, then we would vote for them all at once.
Thank you. Does anyone have that request? Then may I have a motion?
Then I'll move adoption of the consent calendar.
Roseanne? Thank you.
Could I ask members to state their last name when they make a motion or a second?
Roseanne Micus for the first.
Thank you.
Wendy Rosen. I know that's my full name. Rosen.
Thank you.
We're like I'm a sports team person.
Chris, when you're ready, can you take a vote?
Ms. Acker?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cacchiotti?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad?
Yes.
Mr. Corridori? Oh, excuse me, not here. Ms. Dransfeld?
Yes.
Ms. Fossen?
Yes.
Mr. Garand?
Yes.
Ms. James?
Yes.
Mr. Kishbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Kraut?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Ms. Micus?
Aye.
Ms. Nelson?
Yes.
Ms. Rosen?
Yes.
Mr. Rossman?
Yes.
Mr. Wendler?
Yes.
Mr. Yagparian?
Yes.
Ms. Newsom?
Yes.
That passes.
Okay, thank you. Conservancy members, is there a motion and a second for the consent calendar?
Does there take a yes, motion to move?
Thank you. And a second,
I'll second the motion to approve the consent calendar.
second by member Pavley. Is there any objections to go into the roll call here? I see none, so let's go to roll call.
Mr. Alongi? Alongi? Yes. Mr. Luna?
Aye.
Ms. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Fink?
Yes.
Ms. Munoz?
Yes.
Mr. Ortega?
Yes.
Ms. Pavley?
Yes.
Mr. Veras?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. We are on to the items under 12, discussion items. The first item, 12A, is a item that's postponed to a later date, so there'll be no action taken there today. Next is item 12B, consideration of a resolution authorizing a grant to the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority for visitors serving improvements for coastal community access. And we'll pass it on to the advisory committee for comments and feedback.
Thank you. Advisory committee regarding 12B. Does anybody have any comments, edits, or questions? I just have a question. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm just curious, how, this sort of, will compare to previous summers. Is this a large expansion of resources, at the park or similar?
Beginning of, because I can't hear.
I can answer that. Amy Lethbridge, Chief of Staff for the MRCA. This is a 2-year grant, and it will supplement our existing staffing efforts in Malibu by focusing on amenities and programs that will address visitor safety and amenities, and will come from both staff and community input into what our needs are at our most heavily used coastal park, beaches, and trailheads.
Is anyone else? If not, may I ask for a motion, a first?
Kraut moves approval of 12B.
Thank you. A second?
Second, Roseanne Micus.
Thank you. Chris, when ready, could you call the vote, please?
Ms. Acker?
I'd like more information, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
go ahead.
apologies.
Sure.
I just want to know exactly what we're voting on right this moment.
Item 12B under the discussion items.
Thank you. Consideration of resolution authorizing a grant to MRCA Authority for Western Santa Monica Mountains and Haligas Creek Watershed Project Planning. Is that correct?
No.
That's 11B. So consideration of resolution authorizing a grant to MRCA Authority for visitor serving improvements for coastal community access. Thank you. And that will be in Malibu? It encompasses Malibu?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Ms. Acker?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cacchiotti?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad?
Yes.
Ms. Dransfeld?
Yes.
Ms. Fossen?
Yes.
Mr. Garand?
Yes.
Ms. James?
Yes.
Mr. Kishbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Kraut?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Ms. Micus?
Aye.
Ms. Nelson?
Yes.
Ms. Rosen?
Yes.
Mr. Rossman?
Yes.
Mr. Wendler?
Yes.
Mr. Ekparian?
Yes.
Ms. Newsom?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Conservancy members, is there any additional requests for information, questions? If not, I'll take a motion in a second for this item.
I'll motion.
Okay, thank you.
Zartega, I'll second. Richard Fink, State Parks.
Thank you.
Fink moves, Ortega seconds. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Alonji?
Yes.
Mr. Luna?
Aye.
Ms. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Fink?
Yes.
Ms. Munoz?
Yes.
Mr. Ortega?
Yes.
Ms. Pavley?
Yes.
Mr. Veras?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay, next we have item 12C, which is the consideration of a resolution authorizing a grant to the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority for fire training, facility upgrades at King Gillette Ranch. Is there a staff report here?
Yes, that's also me. Chairman and members, King Gillette Ranch has, as you know, is a popular and much used park, but the facilities have really been underutilized. This year, we had a pilot program for the U.S. Forest Service bringing their national wildfire training program to the park. They were very, very happy and have already indicated they'd love to expand their program. We've had additional requests from many fire agencies to use King Gillette Ranch as a training facility, and our own MRCA fire training program and fire division is really at capacity at its current location. So this proposal would allow us to make the improvements necessary, including expanded beds and expanding classroom spaces and addressing some back maintenance issues to really make it a premier wildfire training center on the West Coast, not just for us locally at the MRCA, but for other community college programs, fire divisions, and the Forest Service itself. And Tim Miller, our Deputy Executive Officer who runs the construction division, is also here if you have any questions about the budget or the specific improvements.
Thank you.
Ready. Advisory Committee regarding item 12C. Does anyone have any questions or information they would like to discuss or ask about?
Yes, just from my understanding, so this is a fee-based program when it provides the space for the training?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you specifically asking about the Forest Service program
Yes,
or the use of the facilities?
yes, the Forest Service using the facilities, is there revenue?
Yes, we have a contract with them and they cover their expenses.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? May I have a motion for first, please?
Fishbaugh moves approval.
Micus, second.
Thank you. Chris, when ready, please take a vote.
Ms. Acker,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Cacchiotti,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad,
Yes.
Ms. Dransfeld,
Yes.
Ms. Fossen,
Yes.
Mr. Garin,
Yes.
Ms. James,
Yes.
Mr. Kishbaugh,
Yes.
Mr. Kraut,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Ms. Micus,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson,
Yes.
Ms. Rosen,
Yes.
Mr. Rossman,
Yes.
Mr. Wendler,
Yes.
Mr. Yakparian,
Yes.
Ms. Newsom,
Yes.
that motion carried.
Okay, thank you. Conservancy members, any questions or comments on 12C?
I had a question, please, if I may. I was just curious, is there flexibility if for some reason the U.S. Forest Service, for whatever reason, isn't providing services in California for a period of time, that it could be used for another agency? I mean, I think it's a great use of the property with the dorms and the things and the location here. It's perfect. I think that's very smart. But I was just curious, with the Wildlife Conservation Board, we're always a little sensitive on what's going to happen on federal lands or money, or what can they do or not do. But is there flexibility in this? If they don't use it, the funds could be available, they're prop $4 for
Absolutely.
another agency or department or something similar.
Yes, and as I've mentioned, we've already received inquiries from both university, community college training programs, as well as other fire agencies who are just looking for adequate training facilities in the area. So we believe that even if the Forest Service could not continue their program temporarily or at all, that there is an audience and a need for these facilities.
Yes, great training opportunities, so I'd be glad to move if there's
Okay.
a motion to do so.
I just wanted to make one comment and say that this is an incredible opportunity for those who are trying to get their S-130s or their S-190s to get their wildland firefighting certifications. Like I've had to. There's a long distance you have to travel in order to get a lot of these courses. One of the prime places to get it is Yosemite Adult School is where a lot of folks go to, and there's a long wait list in order to get there. So our fire division here in MRCA has a robust volunteer program that we should really be proud of. And so the more folks that we get from different agencies that are coming here into MRCA and to utilizing these facilities, it's an exciting opportunity to get SoCal workforce trained, just because there aren't many opportunities to get this training in Southern California. So I'm very thrilled that our capacity is ever growing. And I'm very proud of the MRCA Fire Division.
Great, thank you. Those comments were from Ryan Valencia here. So on the floor, we have a motion by Member Pavley. Is there a second?
Sorry, presumably we'll be getting paid for the use of the facilities and so forth. I'm just curious, when those funds come in, where would we be able to use them?
Well, first and foremost, we like to put funds back into the park where they're generated, but we do fund a large part of the MRCA operation with funds generated from programs like this, including things like ranger services that really are not eligible for other grant funds.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So I got a motion. Need a second here to move forward with the vote.
Are you talking about the Conservancy or we're still on the advisory?
Yes, sir. We're on the Conservancy.
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Luna. So motion and seconded. Thank you. We had a couple questions out of order, but they were great questions. So, Mr. Luna. Okay, with that, Chris, roll call.
Mr. Alonji,
Yes.
Mr. Luna,
Yes.
Ms. Drake,
Yes.
Mr. Fink,
Yes.
Ms. Munoz,
Yes.
Mr. Ortega,
Yes.
Ms. Pavley,
Yes.
Mr. Veras.
Yes.
That motion passes.
The next item is 12D, and it's a consideration of a resolution authorizing a grant to the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority for minor capital outlay improvements at King Gillette Ranch here in LA County. Is there a staff report on these minor capital outlays?
Yes, good afternoon. That would be myself. Good afternoon, Board and Advisory Committee. My name is Sofia Leman. I am the Chief of Park Development with MRCA, here to represent this item and the following one as well. MRCA submitted this application for minor capital outlay improvements at King Gillette Ranch. These improvements are necessary for the continuity of what we've already shared is very critical community infrastructure. The site, the funding will help to actively improve the site to match the current demands, very specifically focused on visitor serving amenities such as trails, gathering spaces, and access points. By being able to fortify these amenities, it will also in turn protect natural resources that we were able to designate public access areas and non-public access areas to make sure there's a balance in this open space area that we maintain and operate. So I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Advisory Committee?
Advisory Committee, comments or questions for our speaker?
Yes, I was unable to understand most of those words due to the echo in the speech. Could we have that repeated or filtered or?
Yeah, Sophia, your microphone has kind of a.
Maybe you could sub.
Yeah, I can put the closed caption. Just go for it. Just yell into your microphone.
Sure, I will try my best. My apologies, and I'll try to be much more delicate in terms of it. But our aim here with this funding as we submit is really to fortify existing visitor serving amenities at King Gillette Ranch, counter to what the previous grant will be supporting our structures in the area. It's really to fortify this critical community infrastructure in the space while also protecting and preserving natural resources, which we know are vital at King Gillette Ranch. So the focus is on these amenities such as trails, gathering spaces, and access points. And it will actively improve the areas that have really been of high use as of late, with KGR being a very prime location for use. I hope that was clear as it wasn't previously.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. That was much easier for us to read. Does anyone else have any comments or questions regarding this? Item 12D before us? If none, then may I ask for a motion?
Wendy Rosen, so moved.
Kraut, second.
Thank you. Chris, when ready, please
Ms.
take a vote.
Zacher, Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Cacciati,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad,
Yes.
Ms. Dransfeld,
Yes.
Ms. Fossen,
Yes.
Mr. Garand,
Yes.
Ms. James,
Yes.
Mr. Kishbaugh,
Yes.
Mr. Kraut,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Ms. Micus,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson,
Yes.
Ms. Rosen,
Yes.
Mr. Rossman,
Yes.
Mr. Wendler,
Yes.
Mr. Yagparian,
Yes.
Ms. Newsom,
Yes.
that motion passed.
Okay, thank you. Conservancy members, are there any questions or comments? River Center, any from you? Okay, seeing none. KGR, questions or comments?
Just a comment that I believe almost all of
Could you
these. are
speak into the
from-
microphone?
Excuse me, this is Member Pavley. I believe all these items are mostly monies from Proposition 4, which is a voter-approved climate-related bond adaptation as well as mitigation. And so just want to give a shout out that this was voter-approved. It's not coming out of the general fund, and this is the kind of programs that the public had in mind, I believe, when they voted for it, protecting watersheds and everything else. So good to see so much of it being expended for the right purpose and in our area.
Great, thank you. I do have a question as well. For typically when we have the capital LA projects, major capital LA, sometimes we have we have signage recognizing where the funds came from. I know sometimes on the minor ones, the sign sometimes can cost more than the improvements. Are we acknowledging, because I think it's very important to continue to allow the public to feel that when they make a vote here, that it actually is connected to improvements in our areas, for example. But any thought given, whether it's this or others, doesn't have to go now, but especially when we're talking about gathering spaces, is sort of like the key trigger point to know that you get a gathering space, partially be improvement or whatever the plan is exactly. That at least we could acknowledge that there's some Prop 4 connection to and voter approved funding that goes to improve that space.
Oh, absolutely. That's part of, we always acknowledge which funding source. We always acknowledge which funding source provided it.
Okay, great.
However, we're not going to be like some of our nonprofit friends who put donors' names on the back of chairs. This chair was brought to you by Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. However, it would be nice, we used to have that kind of requirement. It was actually a requirement of several of the bonds. And I don't know if they dropped that requirement or if we just were not faithful in carrying it out, but we'll make sure that everybody that needs the acknowledgement gets the acknowledgement.
Right. There's an important connection to be made from voting for a bond initiative to the funding coming to reality. I think it's as much as we can sort of make those connections, I think it's valuable for today and for the future here. So, okay. Any other comments or questions on this item? If not, I'll ask for a motion and a second for its approval.
So moved.
Okay. That was Irma at the River Center, yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Ortega, I'll second.
And Ortega second. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Alonji? Yes. Mr. Luna?
Aye.
Ms. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Fink?
Yes.
Ms. Munoz?
Yes.
Mr. Ortega?
Yes.
Ms. Pavley?
Yes.
Mr. Veras?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay, item 12E is a consideration of a resolution authorizing a grant to the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority for minor capital outlay improvements along the Los Angeles River, City of Los Angeles. Very similar to the staff presentation given for item 12D. So it very much same kinds of projects. So unless there's a desire to have her repeat that, I think she acknowledged that in her presentation for item 12D. But let me pass it on to advisory committee. And then if there's a desire to ask additional questions, it's along the same realm.
I've got a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
Could we just get two samples? I understand there's small projects, but could you just give us like two of the samples to get a better picture? Because it's easier for me to understand trail maintenance and so forth at King Gillette, but since the LA River is so much more distributed, a couple of examples would just help solidify what we're doing.
Absolutely. And so this grant application is really building off of a prior general fund minor capital outlay that was requested in 2022, which was very targeted at a segment of pocket parks along the LA River But we, during that process, have identified the need for more improvements at other sites similar to what we did. And so in the time from this previous general fund, we've been able to conduct a tree survey to identify conditions and health of trees, specifically sycamores, and provide them health and assessments, and trimming is necessary and or additional treatments if they were infected that can't be supported by day-to-day maintenance funds. So that's one activity that we've been able to do, identify status of the amenities that are on site, whether benches need replacement and or just a really thorough day of cleaning with our team for assessment. So those are the types of projects that we've been doing. But I do know that on the kind of expanded section of this grant, additional signage is needed to be updated to the LA River Master Plan of 2020 so that there's more cohesiveness and connection along the LA River.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for our speaker? If not, may I ask for a motion
Yakbarian moves.
and a second?
Kraut seconds.
Thank you. Chris, when ready?
Ms. Acker,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Cacciati,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad,
Yes.
Ms. Dransfeld,
Yes.
Ms. Fawson,
Yes.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Ms. James,
Yes.
Mr. Kishbaugh,
Yes.
Mr. Kraut,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Ms. Mikas,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson,
Yes.
Ms. Rosen,
Yes.
Mr. Rossman,
Yes.
Mr. Wendler,
Yes.
Mr. Yakparian,
Yes.
Ms. Newsom.
Yes.
That motion passes.
Wonderful. Conservancy members, is there a question, comment on this item?
This is Luna. I move.
Thank you, Mr. Luna. Is there a second?
Ms. Ortega, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. On the second, to roll call vote?
Mr. Alonji,
Yes.
Mr. Luna,
Aye.
Ms. Drake,
Yes.
Mr. Fink,
Yes.
Ms. Munoz,
Yes.
Mr. Ortega, Yes. Ms. Pavley,
Yes.
Mr. Veras.
Yes.
That motion passes.
The next two items are related to Elephant Hill. So we'll take the staff presentations together, but have two separate votes on the items. The first is consideration of a resolution authorizing a grant to save Elephant Hill for the Advancing Community-Centered Conservation Project at Elephant Hill. The second, or 12G, is a consideration of a resolution authorizing a grant to the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority for acquisition planning and design, or project planning and design at Elephant Hill. Staff report on this?
And board, I'll be presenting on both items 12F and G, which, as you mentioned, are coordinated. They're coordinated grant applications. So for item 12F, Save Elephant Hill is seeking a grant for advancing community-centered conservation project at Elephant Hill. And Elephant Hill is a beloved open space area in El Sereno in Northeast Los Angeles. There's a long history of community advocacy that dates back to the early 2000s when the hill was threatened by a developer who actually illegally expanded the footprint of the development by twofold. So the community really stepped in, and this is before social media existed, and they fought the development off, and they organized with the community. So due to Save Elephant Hill's advocacy, the city of LA and later MRCA acquired open space. And currently between both MRCA and the city of LA, we manage just under 25 acres. So 25 acres with about 65 acres remaining in the city of LA that are under private ownership. So about a third of the land almost in LA are already protected. So MRC is currently has a grant with Los Angeles County Regional Park and Open Space District for trail construction and acquisition. And the original grant scope had some language that limited what could be acquired. So that narrowed down the parcels that are adjacent to the MRCA's existing holdings. Later on, the scope was adjusted, which has allowed us to make several successful acquisitions. But this grant is going to expire at the end of 2025. And Elephant Hill is still under threat of private development. So the community and MRCA have been coordinating closely on acquisition opportunities. The community's been like, honestly, they're out there. There's people that sometimes are just out there doing weird things, surveying their land. And it's really like our community partners that are there that'll say, hey, this is, MRCA's information. They're a public agency and they kind of do like a lot of good engagement and have brought interested sellers to us. So the community's already kind of, they are already helping us in acquisition. So the community and MRCA, we want to continue to work together. MRCA is committed to continuing to identify opportunities for acquisition and then helping secure the funds. So I can talk about that in a moment. But this grant application would allow Save Elephant Hill to create a community conservation toolkit, and it will really capture the community's vision of Elephant Hill. There really isn't a community-facing document that supports that, and they would work with Salt Landscape Architects on that. And essentially, a document is really to help the community be seen, but also as a tool for conservation that it could be used with private landowners. Additionally, with decision makers, elected officials, it's really bringing in, building off of previous engagement while also continuing that engagement. Additionally, Save Elephant Hill will provide education on MRCA's practices for acquisition, including the appraisal process. Oftentimes, folks that we engage with, private landowners, they just experience the process, and sometimes they have questions on the appraisals and all that, but kind of getting ahead of that and just having like a neutral community-based entity providing the information on what to expect. And then also Save Elephant Hill will be partnering with Jill Suriel, and she's a recognized expert in park and open space in LA, and kind of to support that, engaging with different stakeholders and parcel owners and bringing in some strategy on that end. And then lastly, on MRCA's end, on the grant application for item 12G, essentially the grant would be for MRCA to continue to have capacity to engage with private landowners, continue community engagement, complete appraisals, and actually help with that process. And again, MRCA is working already closely with Save Elephant Hill and different community-based organizations and different organizations on issues such as off-roading. So there's already a really strong network of community-based organizations, and this is just really like building off of a lot of that existing structure. So I'm going to pause, and I know Elianes is also here from Save Elephant Hill and can answer additional questions if I'm not able to get to some.
Grand, I have a question. So this community awareness and engagement plan, I think it's very exciting to see this. And because I'm a new member, I don't know what is our experience in the past with such a scope of effort to engage. Have we had these kind of projects in the past?
We have different kinds of open space plans and efforts, but this is unique because it is acquisition oriented. But it's kind of we get into this chicken and egg situation where in order for folks to even, and whether it's like community members who also own land on the hill, it's really getting the community's vision and having that as the forefront of the acquisition, and then having that vision used as a tool to let private landowners know that, selling your land to a public agency, which has tax benefits, there's like a lot of, interesting layers to it, but, using the vision as a tool to get folks to feel like, hey, there's actually something happening here, and I have options of where I can, sell my land to, and what kind of legacy we create with that. So yeah, that I think element is unique to this.
Well, I hope that we'll have the opportunity to see the project as it unfolds, not for oversight, but just to learn and follow.
Thank you, Roseanne.
Yeah, just a comment, because I've been following each of our items that have been going along after the comment about what proposition it is, and all of them pretty much except, they all say under the background in the report, most of them say Proposition 4. The first Elephant Hill one was Proposition 4. The second Proposition, Elephant Hill one is Proposition 68. So I do think that the staff has been doing this, and we just probably weren't, I wasn't paying attention to it myself as much until you asked, and I just did these last several items, and so that's a good thing.
I actually want to move the item, but also I want to make a comment. I've been on this advisory committee for almost 20 years. I mean, I can't believe I've aged here and turned gray. But I remember the advocacy of Elephant Hill so sort of vibrantly in my mind at the LA River Center. And when you talk about how engaged a community has been, those were some of the longest, but also the most interesting, meetings that we had. And I like the idea and the comment that was made earlier that this is sort of a unique situation where we're looking to the community to sort of guide us into this document to educate the public, because where I live, we've missed the opportunity to sell some of our parcels to the Conservancy because they didn't know. And when we approached them later, they said, oh, if we'd only known, so I really think maybe we can also use this as a guide in the future for a way to educate communities and potential sellers, private property owners, to offer these kinds of parcels to open space, which I think is so important for natural resource protection. So I'm just really happy to see these items, and I'm very enthusiastic, and I'd like to move at least one of them.
Please.
Planning.
Ali Acker. I also remember those early meetings, and and I remember being shocked at how park poor this area was. Do you happen to have those figures handy? Because this area of Northeast Los Angeles, El Sereno, and that surrounding area are very park poor, and that was one of the reasons that people have been using these parcel and adjacent parcels for a long time for all kinds of recreation, because there just isn't anything else. And I remember there was huge community support. We had a large turnout of community members talking to us that were very engaged. And that's why I agree with Wendy and everybody else. This is wonderful to see that the community is leading the charge.
Yes, so in Northeast Los Angeles, I love Nila. There's beautiful hilltops, canyons, there's so much open space, and there's been a vision for a long time to connect those open spaces. That's later or as we go. So our hope is to create like accessible recreational opportunities. So for example, trails that aren't like super steep, because that's a lot of times there are used trails or old trails that are not aligned with current trail guidelines. So that is a really big effort, is preserving the open space so they don't become developed. A lot of the hill is under threat for development. And then to make those trails, because there are trails there, people use it, but it's really steep. Like I'm a trail planner, not that I'm the best hiker in the world, but I run out of breath every time I go up it's like an old essentially used trail. So it is really important when we talk about, there's a lot of open space. It's beautiful. There's California walnut habitat that the community is really excited about. A lot of like efforts, really like community-based efforts. But again, it really, at the end of the day, down the line, we have to really think about how we are creating accessible, trail and recreational opportunities. So thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you. Again, advisory committee, are any more questions or comments regarding 12F, which again is consideration of resolution authorizing a grant to save Elephant Hill for the Advancing Community-Centered Conservation Project at Elephant Hill, City of Los Angeles.
So moved.
This is Daniel Rossman in the River Center. I I want to get towards that goal of saving Elephant Hill, and I think a lot of the values of protecting that open space are outlined in this proposal. I am a little just unclear about, to me, and members have spoken about 20 years of engagement where the community is coming forward and saying, we need to protect this place, that I'm not sure why community engagement is the roadblock to us acquiring the lands. Like, so I just want to make sure that the way that we're spending this money enables us to get to the actual land acquisition, which is the end goal. And I just want a little more explanation of how these two grants will, have us here a year later or 2 years later, actually voting to acquire new property.
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to respond to that question. So on the Save Elephant Hill grant application side of these two items, essentially, I'm going to just allude back to my chicken and egg comment. There is, there are a lot of folks that live or have land at Elephant Hill, and they don't know that there's even an opportunity to sell. And when we engage them, they're not familiar with the practices. So that is one piece. Another element of this is the community's engaging, the community, Save Elephant Hill would be engaging with the local community because there isn't a community based document that will not, it's not only just for landowners, as I mentioned, it's also for our other partners. So, this is going to take a lot of partnerships. So there is also that element of allowing the community that space. But on the MRCA item, it's engaging landowners. It's really like, we're going after appraisals. It's our staff time to reach out to folks. I just got an email this week from someone who's like, I have all these different parcels and I want to talk to you, we, need capacity internally to have those conversations. So, engagement is engaging the community, but also engaging private landowners. So in both of the grants, we'll address both of those things. And at the end of the day, it's really giving us both capacity on the community and MRCA to have those conversations so that we can make these deals and preserve the open space. Let me know if that if I could add anything else to that.
Also be able to answer that question.
Were there any more comments? Yes.
Just for those of us who aren't as familiar, I'm just
Ms.
curious.
Yanya is here and the River Center would like to continue to follow Ms. Kevorkian on the answer for Mr. Rossman, if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
So it's, there's been so little engagement of the community in a very intentional way over a period of time that made sense. I mean, there's been large stretches of time when there was nothing happening on Elephant Hill or bad things were happening on Elephant Hill. So we want to, in terms of the community toolkit, really just kind of gather the engagement that's already happened and put forward an illustrated vision of what the community wants to see and use that tool to kind of get everybody on the same page. I think, Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and MRCA are there, but there are other entities like the city and the county that could be really use that kind of vision to galvanize support in a, I guess, cohesive manner. So there's that. And then on the education piece, it's really more getting people to understand a process that many of the, especially immigrant landowners, don't understand, fair market value versus, I want the highest value possible. So that's what we put a lot of thought into these ideas and been talking to Sarah and the MRCA for a long time. And I think we have the right partnership to be able to move these ideas forward to fruition. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Kristen James here at King Gillette.
Thank you. Just a quick question. If staff could share what the various colors are on the map in the agenda item. I see the legend has a few, but are the colored spots parcels you're evaluating, or just so I understand what that is?
Sure. Thank you for that question. So essentially, this shows the ownership at MRC at Elephant Hill. So the bright green parcels are MRCA managed, and those like orange kind of transparent ones are publicly owned by different cities. The other colors represent properties that are owned by the same landowner, private landowner. So for example, all those turquoise ones, it's one person. And there's many of these people that are like dying to be like, I want to sell you all of my land. And previously, we haven't had funding opportunities that could, could facilitate that. So what this demonstrates is those, and in those black outline boxes with no filled color inside of it, those are, each of those parcels are owned by an independent, completely different owner. So overall, altogether, this kind of demonstrates the mixed land ownership, because there's blocks of properties that you slowly start chipping at, and there's obvious places to start. So we wanted to demonstrate how the ownership is broken out.
Great, thank you, very helpful.
Thank you. Have any other questions, comments regarding 12F? If not, I'd like to call for a motion.
Then Wendy Rosen would like to move.
I'm sorry, Wendy, how did I miss you there?
I would
Forgive
like to
me.
move.
Thank you.
Second, Micus.
Thank you. Chris, when ready, take a vote, please.
Ms. Acker,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Cacchiotti,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad,
Yes.
Ms. Dransfeld,
Yes.
Ms. Fawson,
Yes.
Mr. Garand. Yes. Ms. James,
Yes.
Mr. Kishbaugh,
Yes.
Mr. Kraut,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Ms. Micus,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson,
Yes.
Ms. Rosen,
Yes.
Mr. Rossman,
Yes.
Mr. Wendler,
Yes.
Mr. Yagparian,
Yes.
Ms. Newsom.
Yes.
Is somebody? That motion passes.
Okay, Conservancy members, item 12F. Any questions or comments on this item? So,
Yeah, this is Ortega. I have one comment. We heard from public comment. One of the tribal reps came and spoke and asked about tribal engagement. So I'd like to state for
Speak
12
up, please.
I'd like to say for 12F and G that just to ensure tribal engagement participation in the consultation process of both items on there. So just to make sure that they're included in as well, as we heard from one public comment from one of the tribal reps.
thank you for the comment. Staff, do we have a response? Is that not included in our process here?
Yes. So for item 12F, Save Elephant Hill will be engaging with different entities, organizations, and tribes are included in that, of course. So it's noted. Yeah.
This is Miguel Luna. With that commitment, before I make my move, I really want to thank Ms. Yanez for her long-term advocacy and Save Elephant Hill and their leadership, but also you, Ms. Kevorkian. Your data wasn't just about parcels and the land and the history of it, but it was empirical, and that means a lot. So thank you for your work. And with that, I move.
Second,
We have a motion and a second on the floor here.
I'd like to make several comments if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, River Center. Go ahead, Irma.
I think I've been on the Conservancy for 13 years, which surprises me because I was a young chick when I was first appointed, and obviously things have changed. But this is the first time on any agenda item that I have read community-centered. The truth is anything that's developed for the public, especially in outdoor space, it needs to be community-driven, community-centered, community-focused, because then they will take care of it. If you just build a park, well, they had nothing to say of what trees were planted or what their kids wanted. So that is something that should be happening, not just here at Elephant Hill, but in our other projects that we have. And it's about the community. It's about the people who are going to use and enjoy the space that we create so that they can lead and own that space, so they can take care of it. Not only the adults, but the children and everything, everybody between 2 and grandma age, so they appreciate and value what they created with whatever agency they were working with. And then I want to say, I really want to thank the leadership of Alva Yanis and the many countless folks who are residents of Elephant Hill. I knew about Elephant Hill before I even got on the Conservancy. And it takes a lot of strength, determination, and stubbornness to work on the saving of Elephant Hill for the many, many, many years they've been at it. Most people would have given up a long time ago, but it was their passion, and they wanted to save space, green space, which is what we're about. And lastly, Ms. Sarah, you really know this project very, very well. And you have really educated and informed and inspired so many, including the residents of Elephant Hill. We always need someone who will listen, understand when they're working for a governmental agency and not pretending that we get it. And yes, we're here for you, but you truly are a classic and great example of what a true partnership can be between a governmental agency and a community. So thank you so much for your work. And with that, I'm going to vote yes on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Javon. Ryan, comments?
Well, my first comment was addressed by Rudy, so thank you. I just want to make sure there's follow-up with the public comments that are made on Indigenous input. My second question or comment has to do with, first, I'm ignorant to the park, to be frank with you. I'm from a different neighborhood, so wanted a little bit more context, because the first time that this item came up, I read a little bit about how it had become a bit of a off-roading site. And so I just wanted a little bit of the law enforcement side of things. Has that issue kind of been dealt with since then? And is there cross-jurisdictional agreements with the city surrounding and the MRCA property for law enforcement? So just as a safety standpoint.
Sure, I can address those questions. So actually it was Elva and Save Elephant Hill, Elva and Hugo, that reached out to us, and they had identified California State Parks grant opportunity for basically for off-roading mitigation. And the community came to MRCA and said, we want you to apply for this grant. We want to partner with you. Save Elephant Hill organized a meeting with partners, different community-based organizations, nonprofits, entities, groups, and and invited, organized all this, invited the folks from California State Parks down, organized a tour, presentation on the process, and MRCA applied for this grant and successfully has a grant and works with Save Elephant Hill to do the community engagement component of the off-roading mitigation. And the grant gave MRCA funds for our rangers to patrol. And yes, it's actually our off-roading activities have decreased. It's really like a two-step process. You need to have the engagement, the community education, but also basically the law enforcement and having the presence there. So essentially, yes, it was really from the community that that grant came to be, and actually also engaging with City of LA. We work closely, from our rangers, we work closely with the city, and not just in terms of law enforcement, but I know that like a big part of what Save Elephant Hill has been being a big partner is how do we coordinate more with the city at all the different layers, from council layer level and so forth. So yes, we are already working with in conjunction with both the community and the city. And I think these grants will allow us to continue to have the capacity for us to continue that work.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to keep that in mind as we expand more land, if we've dealt with that issue already. So thank you very much for that.
Sure, thank you. Any other comments? I'd like to offer a few on my part here. I've watched this for a long time as well. Northeast LA has a sort of special network of these hills that I think it's been long our desire to connect and make work together. This one has been an amazing project because it's had this interesting activism history, and you can kind of see what the future is by just standing, right off of probably one of the busiest trick-or-treating streets in the city of Los Angeles, which is right there on Collis. But from the standpoint, it does take activists to continue to sort of refresh. I appreciate, Sarah, you mentioned the council, and I hope in the Save Elephant Hill with Ugo and Elva there, we have a new council member in the area that sometimes engaging and talking about vision and coordination is valuable and important. I know at the state side, both the assembly member and senator are now well, if they weren't before, certainly one is definitely well aware of the project and want to support it as much as possible. The two items we have in front of us, one of the things about Prop 68 was it included disadvantaged communities and being able to draw from that, knowing that this is a community that's going to gain again. Because of sort of the thoughtfulness to go into grants. Sometimes it's hard for us because some of our areas are not disadvantaged, but the opportunity to pull it together with a Prop 4, with looking at quality creation, making all these things that go together is really tremendous. I do want to say sometimes viewed investing in these properties as an investment. We wanted to figure out the highest value they could get from it. And the challenge of being on the government side, it's not necessarily the highest value, it's the market value. And so part of that education process, I hope, sort of is able to go through the process of understanding fair market value, not ripping it off. I mean, if you donated it to us, that would be wonderful. But the reality is that we're operating under a fair market value process. And so a lot of this is education. There is, for a while, immigrant funding sources, our out-of-country funding sources that have been parts of some of these parcels. But the whole total communication is an alignment of state, local, and community-based interest to be able to get to something that we can also buy or look at, has some work there. So the activism, we appreciate online and in person, and certainly everybody who remembers pieces of this. We still have some work to do, but I think these two grants in front of us will do a lot to pull it together and get a chance to re-educate the new council member and all the electeds there to be on the same page always with what happens. So with that, I know we had a motion offered by Member Luna and a second by Mr. Ortega, I believe. And with that, we'll do a roll call, and then we're going to go real quick into 12G right behind it. And so we'll carry on those votes from there. So, Chris.
Mr. Chair, I'm the one who seconded, just for the record.
I'm sorry, Ms. Munoz seconded for the record. I think we all want to second it.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. Mr. Alonji? Yes. Mr. Luna?
Yes.
Ms. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Fink? Yes. Ms. Munoz?
Yes.
Mr. Ortega?
Yes.
Ms. Pavley?
Yes.
Mr. Veras?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay. Great job. 12G.
Iqbali moves passage.
Let's motion and second. Let's right into this.
Okay, so on item 12G, Advisory Committee, may I have a motion?
I think I heard Mr.
Yaparian?
Yaparian.
Thank you. In a second.
Wendy Rosen will second.
Thank you, Wendy. Chris, may I ask for a vote?
Ms. Acker?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cacciati?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad?
Yes.
Ms. Dransfeld?
Yes.
Ms. Fawson?
Yes.
Mr. Garand?
Yes.
Ms. James?
Yes.
Mr. Kishbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Kraut?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Ms. Mikas?
Aye.
Ms. Nelson?
Yes.
Ms. Rosen?
Yes.
Mr. Osman?
Yes.
Mr. Wendler?
Yes.
Mr. Yakparian?
Yes.
Ms. Newsom?
Yes.
That passes.
Okay, 12G. Ms. Munoz, are you open to make the motion here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Mr. Ortega, how about a second from you?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Alonji? Yes. Mr. Luna?
Aye.
Ms. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Fink? Ms. Munoz?
Yes.
Mr. Ortega?
Yes.
Ms. Pavley?
Yes.
Mr. Veras?
Yes.
That passes.
Thank you. Congratulations. And thank you, staff, for working quickly on this item. I know we had a couple months back with community comments that filled our public comment here. And it's great being able to work together with the community and bring forward something that gets on the action side of things. Next is item 12H, consideration of a resolution awarding nonprofit organization grant to the California Conservation Foundation for wildlife remediation activities. Can I get a staff report here?
Sure. You heard from a few speakers about this grant at the beginning of the meeting. We have spent a lot of time talking about the Palisades fire footprint and not a lot talking about Eaton Canyon and Altadena. This grant would give the California Conservation Foundation $100,000 to really look at natural resources, needs and opportunities in the footprints of that fire with a robust community engagement project at all levels, and come back to us with recommendations of how we might further be involved in restoring that community.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you, Amy, by the way. We do have Claire Robinson from the public, who is the managing director of Amigos de los Rios, who would like to make a comment on item 12H, please.
Okay, if there's no objections, I'm open. I know we're getting close to curfew time over at the River Center. So I want to try to,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I read this afternoon that the mayor extended the time period to 10 o'clock.
Okay, well, good. So operationally, I think I was in the car and it didn't get it. It's okay. So then that saves us.
Thank you, Mr. Edmondson.
Okay, then let's go ahead and go to the member of the public here for her comment. And I'm sorry, what the name of the person was again?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The name of the person is Claire Robinson.
Okay, Claire, and if you can let her know how much time she has and when you'll cut her up, you'll give her the 1 minute notice, correct?
Absolutely. Claire, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful. I apologize for I didn't get in on the right time, so thank you for the opportunity. Our nonprofit Amigos de los Rios has been headquartered in Altadena for the past 20 years, and many of our staff, including myself, lost our homes in the fire. Immediately after the fire, we did an index of the living trees with a post-fire aerial. There were 14,000. We figure we'd lost half of the tree canopy the night of the fire. And with the debris removal of the Army Corps and other processes, we've lost another 30%. And that continues because there's a lack of capacity locally to assess the true condition of the trees and make sure that's equitably done across West Altadena and East Altadena. As you know, West Altadena did not receive notices, so that's where we have a lot of devastation and tremendous loss of biodiversity. We're in a heat island, projected to get worse. So losing the canopy for the biodiversity is tragic, and it's been very sad to see dead owls and dead creatures. And it's also very hard for vulnerable population who cannot deal with the heat. So I was very grateful to see this on the agenda. It's the right time. People are selling properties. They don't want to sell them to developers. They'd rather sell them so that it becomes a community service. The only silver lining in this whole process is that there wasn't equity in Altadena in tree canopy. It ranged from 0% to 49%. So this is our opportunity to integrate natural infrastructure into the major arterials and make sure there's a grid of every half mile, some sort of park that's truly accessible, because with a small child or elder, you can't really just jump on a trail in the forest. You need, more concerted parks designed for you at your age and ability. So I just wanted to thank you for considering this. Bad things are happening every day in terms of additional tree loss. We're starting to water trees to help them make it through the summer, the grandparent trees, as we call them, that are 60 inches in diameter. And, we want to make sure we protect as much as we can, given all the loss. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Claire.
Move on to the Conservancy.
Yes, advisory committee, this is in regarding 12H. Are there any questions or comments for those presenting or regarding the item itself? If none, may I have a motion?
I have a motion. I'll make the motion and then I have a comment. Wendy Rosa makes the motion.
Second, Roseanne Micus.
And my comment is, and I'm just going to bring this up every time there's an item like this until people get so sick of me, they just throw money at some parcels. But I know that there are a lot of parcels being sold for development, and it is very important after fires to purchase parcels for open space and buffer. And I know that our money is now going for fire resiliency and sustainability. And I know there's a big push for, phasing out fossil fuels and going all electric. I'm part of a group that's doing Rebuild LA. But if we, if we really want to address, I think the natural resource protection and also fire protection, we need to talk about putting money to buying up some of these parcels. So I'm just going to put it out there. And maybe somebody will hear me and we'll get a pile of money where we can buy some of these parcels. And that's my comment.
Thank you. Thank you. On that, Chris, may I ask for a vote, please?
Ms. Acker,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Cacchiotti,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad, Ms. Dransfeld,
Yes.
Ms. Fossen,
Yes.
Mr. Garen,
Yes.
Ms. James,
Yes.
Mr. Kishbaugh,
Yes.
Mr. Kraut,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Ms. Micus,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson,
Yes.
Ms. Rosen,
Yes.
Mr. Rossman,
Yes.
Mr. Wendler,
Yes.
Mr. Ekparian,
Yes.
Ms. Newsom,
Yes.
that passes.
Thank you. Conservancy members, questions, comments? And if none, a motion and a second, please.
Richard Fink, I'll motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. And is there a second?
Second.
Second by Pavli. Roll call vote.
Mr. Alonji? Yes. Mr. Luna?
Yes.
Ms. Drake?
Yes.
Mr. Fink?
Yes.
Ms. Munoz has left the meeting. Mr. Ortega?
Yes.
Ms. Pavli?
Yes.
Mr. Veras?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Thank you. Next is item 12I, consideration of an allocation of wildfire workforce development funding. I love that. Wildfire workforce development funding for a cultural burn training program for the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority staff and tribal representatives. This is your staff report.
That's me again. Last meeting, you all authorized a grant to the MRCA for a variety of wildfire resilience efforts, including workforce development. We're requesting that we specifically augment $150,000 of that workforce development money for a specific cultural burn training program, not just for our own staff, but for tribal representatives and others who may be interested in this there's increasing conversation and interest in learning from tribal members, and there are resources out there, and our fire training division can offer these courses both internally and to the tribal members and the public.
Okay.
So we're
Got it. Advisory committee.
Do you have a question?
I'm going to have a question and comment, and I will move the item. There appears to be, at least unless I'm reading it incorrectly, in the staff report on page 168 of 195, under consideration, it says they're asking for $150,000. In the resolution, in the third whereas, it's referencing $7,400,000. That seems to be a big discrepancy, or am I misreading what it says?
the $7,400,000 was what was approved last meeting. We're asking that we use $150,000 of that 7 million for this program.
Okay, but the 150,000 doesn't appear anywhere in the resolution, apparently.
We'll take a look at that, but it.
Okay,
the
I just
intent
want to
was
make
that it comes out of the original.
Okay, it just seemed like a little crazy there, wasn't sure. Anyhow, but I'm very supportive of the item. I think it's great, and I've moved the item.
Following that, is there a second? Second, Acker. Thank you.
And then I
This
have
is Mr. Rossin. Could I just ask one question to staff? So the 150,000 is both for MRCA staff, but also could be used to hire tribal consultants?
Yes, to offer the trainings that they are best to offer.
Yeah.
This also includes a plan to do outreach to some of the tribal colleges to create workforce development opportunities as burn consultants.
Fantastic, thanks.
So my question is, so we already approved the 7,400,000, and I'm just wondering, we're obviously needing to vote to reapportion it to a different use. So I'm guessing, where did it, what are we losing? Where's the 150 coming from?
It's coming from the workforce development allocation of that original grant, but we thought it was important that this body heard of and understood our desire to, it's a new program, so we wanted to bring it to your attention.
Okay, I understand.
On that, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Acker,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Cacciati,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad, Ms. Dransfeld,
Yes.
Ms. Fossen,
Yes.
Mr. Garin,
Yes.
Ms. James,
Yes.
Mr. Kishbaugh,
Yes.
Mr. Kraut,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Ms. Micus,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson,
Yes.
Ms. Rosen,
Yes.
Mr. Rossman,
Yes.
Mr. Wendler,
Yes.
Mr. Yagparian,
Yes.
Ms. Newsom,
Yes.
that passes.
Okay, can I get a motion and a second on this item? Or if there's questions.
Luna, so moved.
Luna moves. Thank you.
I'll second.
Second by Ortega, and then one comment by Mr. Valencia.
Well, I just want to, Ryan Valencia, I just want to comment that Cal Poly San Luis Obispo has a really robust kind of tribal relations with their wildland firefighting program up there. In fact, back when we were doing our prescribed burn association here in Los Angeles, they came out and were doing some of that training for us. And so, you know, there's some good relationships to be built with Cal Poly SLO, good brain trust and relations to be built with their tribal connections. So I'm very excited again for an opportunity for our indigenous folks to be trained in this and come home.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Now we'll roll call vote.
Mr. Alonji,
Yes.
Mr. Luna,
Aye.
Ms. Drake,
Yes.
Mr. Fink,
Yes.
Mr. Ortega,
Yes.
Ms. Pavley,
Yes.
Mr. Veras,
Yes.
that passes.
And next is item 12J. It's consideration of a resolution authorizing a grant to the California Department of Parks and Recs for wildlife resilience projects. And we'll have a presentation from State Parks here.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Richard Fink. I'm the superintendent for California State Parks. I am superintendent of the Angeles District. We have, depending on how you look at it, about 25 state park units, primarily throughout LA County and a little bit in Ventura. We have a big territory and a great team. Today, I'm actually going to leave my seat here and come over to this side of the room and talk about a grant application that California State Parks has put in for your consideration. Before we get into the grant and the work that we're trying to do, I did want to take about 5 minutes to kind of walk you through the Palisades fire incident and how it impacted state parks, how we responded to the incident, and then just to highlight the power of the state parks team and our ability to get work done even in the face of adversity. Next slide, please. So as many of you know, on January 7th, 2025, the Palisades fire incident began on the southeast side of Palisades Drive. In the 24 days that followed, over 23,000 acres were destroyed. 8,300 of those acres were state park land, which is over 1/3 of the entire Palisades Fire incident. Tragically, as you know, 6,800 homes and businesses were destroyed in the Palisades Fire, and that does include 47 state park structures. This picture was taken the morning of the fire from Will Rogers State Park as we watched the fire move through Topanga. Next slide, please. So I mentioned 47 facilities that were destroyed in the fire. These irreplaceable resources included places such as the Will Rogers Ranch House, which you see in front of you. The park's general plan called the ranch house one of the few places where you could, quote, get peaceful views of Los Angeles and the Pacific Ocean, combined with practical experiences of a working ranch, brought to life an American icon who never met a man he didn't like, and that's Will Rogers. Next slide, please. So this is a before photo of the historic Will Rogers Ranch House as it was seen on the morning of January 7th. Next photo, please. And this is the morning after, January 8th. As you can see, the park sustained heavy damage, particularly to the historical resources. 19 structures at Will Rogers State Historic Park were entirely destroyed. That includes the historic ranch house, the historic stables, as well as employee residences, and hundreds of eucalyptus and other trees. Next slide, please. This was a beautiful building at Will Rogers. It was a historic stables, part of our equestrian operation. 13 of the outbuildings at Will Rogers were also destroyed. Those structures primarily supported the equestrian operations at the park. Will Rogers himself wrote articles boasting that this barn and this stable was even nicer than the house that he had built for his family. So really just two incredibly big losses for state parks. Next slide, please. This is the stables the morning after. We also have employees that lived in the back of the stables that lost their residence and everything in them as well. So that was also a big loss for us. Next slide, please. The other park unit that experienced significant loss in the Palisades Fire was Topanga State Park. This park features many miles of trails through open grassland, live oaks, and of course, spectacular views of the Pacific Ocean. Topanga is located entirely within Los Angeles city limits and is considered the world's largest wildland within the boundaries of a major city. Next slide, please. Tragically, 71% of Topanga State Park was burned as a result of the Palisades Fire. Next slide, please. One of the areas that got hit pretty hard with the fire was Topanga Ranch Motel. Many of you probably saw these historic motel units along PCH. There were about 15 of them. And there were also 6 concessionaires, businesses, and important businesses to the Topanga community that existed on site. In addition, again, to employee residences. Next slide, please. So this is, again, what it looked like the morning after the fire. At Topanga, we lost 28 structures that were completely destroyed as a result of the fire. Next slide, please. So during the fire, as you know, wind gusts were recorded between 80 to 90 miles an hour. And for fire behavior, this is very extreme. So even with the best laid out plans and response mechanisms in place, this was a very challenging event to respond to. So how does the department respond to these type of emergencies? Next slide, please. This is actually what it looks like kind of internally on the ground. This is our group chat. This is what it looked like on the morning of January 7th. And I show this because this group chat, as simple as it is the product of months and months of emergency planning at our district. Ironically, we kind of dialed in on emergency response in the months leading up to this event. We set up things like a group emergency chat. We set up other procedures. And so when the fire unfolded on January 7th, we executed according to the protocol and the procedures that we had already trained on. So I'm extremely proud to share that our team, and you'll see as we go along, really followed their training and their professional experience and made great decisions all along the way. So this is really how it starts. You know, we get a notification that there's a fire starting up in the Palisades. And of course, the question then it becomes, where is the incident command? Who's going to staff it? Next slide, please. So once the incident is occurring and we're fully into it, California State Parks sets up and participates in a Department Operations Center activation. These operations centers, as you see in the picture, they include division chiefs from all the program areas, natural cultural facilities, administration, interpretation, public safety. They also include representation from our district, as well as chief rangers. At these meetings, we have daily situation reports. These are opportunities for the district and the folks in Sacramento to communicate based on needs and priorities. Next slide, please. So out of these meetings and out of the DOC, we here locally are provided with statewide resources to help our recovery efforts. So having those open line of communication with all the program areas in Sacramento leads to resources being deployed to our district. These are state park rangers and lifeguards. During the Palisades fire incident, we had over 418 shifts filled by park rangers and lifeguards from out of our district. So these are people coming from all over the state to support our incident. We had rangers travel as far as the northern borders of California to come all the way down and support us. Many rangers and lifeguards actually started driving to our district before actually receiving their assignment or knowing where they were going. And I think that's a testament to the state parks team. They're ready to go. They're deploying even if they don't have all the information. Next slide, please. So we also received over 60 natural and cultural resource advisors. They assist with limiting damage from fire suppression, and they also work with CAL FIRE to address damages that have occurred. And again, coming from all over the state. Next slide, please. We even received 400 hours of help from our facilities management division and 376 hours of assistance from interpretive staff around the state. Management teams were also deployed to our district. And even in the thick of things, as we're working very long days for many weeks in a row, district superintendents were deployed to our district to give people like me a break for a few hours. So we get a lot of support when these incidents happen from our colleagues throughout the state. Next slide, please. Another important component of our emergency response is peer support. As you can imagine, you know, we have a staff of over 300 in our district. Over 20 employees and their families either lost their home or were displaced in the fire, so that's a pretty significant percentage. Other people work their entire careers at Will Rogers Topanga and have really developed a big fondness for these park units. And so as you can imagine, morale was very difficult in the months after the fire. People's emotions were all over the place. And so we receive peer supporters from throughout the state, and they come and they basically talk to people. They sit down, they have one-on-one conversations, they cry, they let people vent. It's entirely confidential. And this is a great resource to our team, myself included. I took advantage of peer support throughout the fire incident. And they continue to come back to our district even as recently as today to support our team. So that's a great asset for us. Next slide, please. So I say all that as you consider our grant application because I want to leave you with the idea that state park employees care very deeply about the places they protect and the people that they work with. Next slide, please. You might remember this from earlier in the presentation. This is the Will Rogers Ranch House. If you go to the next slide, please. In the moments and hours as the fire was unfolding, our dedicated state park staff successfully removed over 150 museum objects from the collections at Will Rogers. These are priceless artifacts, paintings, rugs, furniture, And we're happy to say that all those items have been successfully relocated to a cultural facility in Sacramento where they're being safely stored. Next slide, please. Yes, the museum objects that were saved by our team in the hours leading up to the fire were valued at $1.3 million, and that was in 1990. So these are, again, priceless objects, not only in value, but to Will Rogers' legacy. And again, just a great representation of State Parks employees protecting the assets that they love so much. I'd like to, thank you, can go to the next slide. I want to conclude my portion here with a story for you. This is Maintenance Chief Jeremy Harkless. Jeremy works at Will Rogers, and he was present at the park on the morning of January 7th. He was working his normal shift. Jeremy came to park that morning with his uniform and his lunch with him. And as this fire was unfolding, it was moving through Topanga State Park, Jeremy was very aware that the fire was moving to his personal residence, which is also a state park residence. Rather than going home and worrying about his own things, Jeremy remained at the park. He stayed at the park, he positioned sprinkler systems, he got his staff out safe, and he ensured the safe evacuation of the park. As a result of that and his dedication, Jeremy lost everything that he owned and his entire home. And so what you see him wearing is all that Jeremy had on the morning after the fire. And that's a difficult story for us to share, but it's an example of what our staff went through, not only as they're trying to protect the park and save resources, but also a lot of people dealing with a lot of very personal challenges. But Jeremy was back the next day, even after the fire, isolating water sprinklers and water systems, turning off gas valves in the park. And here he is talking with our state park director, Armando Quintero, in the days after the fire. And I leave you with that because as you're awarding grant money, you want to believe and have the confidence that the people you're giving the money to are going to deliver on it and get results. And so I wanted to share sort of the work ethic and the spirit of the state park team and let you know that if we do receive the grant, we intend to do really great work with it, and we believe we have the right team in place to deliver on it. So with that being said, I wanted to turn it over to our district's senior environmental scientist and the manager of our natural resource program, Noah Riche Khalili. And Noah's going to speak to the work that we're going to do with this grant.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you to the members of the board for listening to our presentation. Okay, next slide, please.
Sorry, I forgot to mention that was the last photo that we got at Will Rogers before we evacuated. So what you're seeing, fortunately, is the Alphabet Streets burn.
Yeah, state park staff was at the Will Rogers house evacuating up until the last minute, and that was my view on our way out of Will Rogers. But let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this map shows our state park's view of the Palisades fire within the boundaries of Topanga, Will Rogers, and parts of Malibu Creek State Park. You can see the purple areas. The darker areas are the areas of higher burn severity. The lighter areas are areas of lower burn severity. And you also see a bunch of H's and R's and X's all over the place. Those are suppression damage, which is basically when the fire is being fought, one of the primary objectives is creating contingency lines around the fire, which basically equals bulldozers coming in and clearing space. So that's part of the damage that we work with the fire department to avoid damage to the most sensitive natural and cultural resources and to repair the damage after the fact. But that shows a bigger picture of the damages to Topanga State Park. You'll also notice that some of the areas where there are creeks have different amounts of burn severity, and part of what creates the burn severity in the creeks is the vegetation that's there. So areas with more natural native vegetation had less burn severity. We saw the canopy remain intact in a lot of those creek areas, and so the habitat remains intact. In Topanga Creek, especially in the lower portions, there was a huge amount of Arundodonax, which is giant reed, which carries and sustains fire extremely well. And those areas had extremely high burn severity, and the trees and canopy in that stretch of the creek are almost gone. Next slide, please. What we're asking for here is money to support our wildfire recovery and resilience. And there's a few different program areas that we'll be talking to you about. We had a team of interdisciplinary professionals from state parks do post-fire assessments, burn area recovery assessments, including archaeologists, botanists, wildlife biologists, hydrogeologists, to assess what repairs are needed and what recovery, long-term recovery we can plan in order to improve the habitats and communities around the state park. We will also talk about how we can use volunteers and expand our volunteer programs in California state parks in the Angeles district to help support not only wildfire recovery and resilience, but community recovery and resilience, because it gives people a place to show stewardship and to join in the recovery of the lands that they use and call home. Next, we're going to talk about how contract augmentation can help support state parks wildfire recovery. That includes youth corps like the California Conservation Corps, the Los Angeles Conservation Corps, Long Beach Conservation Corps, and Watershed Stewards Program. Next, we'll talk about the importance of public information and community education, interurban education, and how signage, interpretation, and programming can help both the community and the wildlands recover. And finally, we'll talk about defensible space. Programs like our fuel modification, boundary vegetation modification program, which help create defensible space for communities, as well as creating defensible space around state parks facilities and buildings and historical structures. Next slide, please. And all of these different program areas sort of come together and help support each other. For example, this is a flyer that our interpretive program helped create, that our community engagement program helped facilitate and disseminate, that our natural resources program helped create the language and the guidelines for creating community defensible space, that our planning and right of entry program helps talk to homeowners and provide them with permits for coming onto state park lands to create the defensible space they need to protect their homes. So all of the, and also volunteerism, because creating defensible space and working with contractors is expensive. And so we're working with the Fire Safe Council and other organizations to develop a community-based defensible space volunteer program so that we can help homeowners create these spaces to keep their homes safe. Next slide, please. This is a view of Topanga Creek after the fire. You can see it's extremely impaired, and it's also home to a number of endangered species and threatened species. The steelhead trout, the tidewater goby, the monarch butterfly, Crotch's bumblebee, as well as very important plant communities, sycamore oak woodlands particularly. That have just been completely decimated by this fire. And part of it was due to invasive species like Arundodonax that was heavily choking this creek. I've been working at state parks since 2010, in the Natural Resources Department, and a big part of my career has been going after the Arundo in this creek. I've gone at it with every tool in our toolbox: masticators, chainsaws, crews, weed whips, hauling it out, pulling it out, digging it out, throwing tarps over it, everything. And the biggest part of battling Arundo is you have to get out the biomass, and there's tons. And just stuffing it into the 40-yard dumpster is a huge challenge. So even though the wildfire that came through has presented us with challenges, it also presents us with an opportunity, because right now that biomass that I've personally been working for years to remove by hand is gone. So we have an opportunity to now address that blank slate, which will fill in again if we don't do something about it, because it's a grass. You cut the lawn, it grows right back. Next slide, please. And so this is an example of what the area in Topanga Creek looked like before the fire. You can see in the foreground, there's a big, actually in the background, there's a big thicket of Arundo donax. It grows like a lawn, except for giants. It has this mat underneath, like, you know, you would dethatch a lawn. Part of what we have to do when we deal with Arundo is dethatching it to even get to it, to be able to deal with it. And next slide, please. This is what it looks like now. The biomass is gone, but the root system's still alive. And so part of the repair and recovery is going into places like this to make sure that we keep the Arundo down, and having crews and staff available, and conservation crews as well available to do this work. And this is part of the recommendations of the Burned Area Recovery Plan that I spoke to you about earlier when I was giving you the overview. So the Burned Area Recovery addresses things like the Arundo donax, things like the Cape ivy, that is also an invasive species that crowds riparian woodlands. But there's also things like our endangered plants and animals that need recovery and resilience. And sometimes we just need to be able to clear away the weeds to make space for them. And this is part of that effort. Other times, we need to actively go out and survey the burned areas. We have a program called EDRR, Early Detection Rapid Response. And so part of the money would go towards a team of botanists to be able to go out into Topanga State Park and other areas to look for new invasions and to be able to address them quickly before they become a problem. Also, there's been a lot of issues with erosion post-fire, and that's something that was also addressed in the BAR report. And so part of the money will also go to address erosion concerns in natural areas, in community-facing areas, and also in our sensitive cultural sites, which were heavily impacted, especially near the northern end of Topanga State Park. Next slide, please. There's also a message of hope here that the landscape is resilient. This is soap plant coming up in the burn scar. And all over the burn scar, you see tons and tons of native species and plants coming up. And we were kind of lucky in a way with this fire because we got rains right afterwards. It was a winter fire after all. And so the seed bank that was there and the rootstocks that the above ground parts burned are able to spring right back. And so a lot of our work is just removing the invasive species, helping people to understand through interpretation that they don't need to go into these areas, that sometimes landscapes just need some breathing room to recover. Next slide, please. This is another example of invasive species coming up. This is milk thistle coming up in areas that we hadn't seen it before within the burn scar. And that's a flashy fuel that carries fire very well. Next slide, please. So this is an example of volunteers doing volunteer work in the state park. Community groups, local communities, as well as all kinds of, AmeriCorps and businesses and other organizations. We need to build our capacity at State Park in order to be able to host volunteer groups and communities to come into the park and do recovery work. Even just pulling mustard, even just removing Italian thistle. We need interpretive staff, we need natural resource staff, and we need cultural staff. A lot of our areas that people want to pull weeds are in culturally sensitive sites, and because of our tribal engagement and liaisonship, we have to have an archaeologist or a tribal representative present during any soil disturbance. And so we have an example at Point Doom where we have a very engaged community group that wants to come out and wants to help. We have to have 3 state park staff present from the different disciplines in order to be able to make that happen. So part of the funding is going to be to augment community volunteerism. Next slide, please. This is another example of volunteers at Topanga State Park working to put cages and oak trees in an area that was lacking trees along Eagle Springs Fire Road. And this area that the community worked on actually was one of the areas that burned over and then had a dozer line put in through it. And so one of the things that the volunteer groups will do is to restore this oak woodland. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, one area where volunteerism can really help out is with creating defensible space for the community, where a contract, 1 day of contract work for creating defensible space is about $2,500. That's pretty steep for a lot of people. And so creating a brigade type group, just kind of like we have Sierra Club that works on our trails, this group that we would create with this funding would help to create defensible space for communities. Next slide, please. So the next portion of the funding would go through to contract labor, as well as staff funding to support those contracts. So this is a group of our forestry aides that's working in Tapia Park to remove some trees that were burned, that were affected by invasive shot-hole borer. And have become a hazard because they're dead and dying, and also have an infestation that has to be dealt with very carefully to avoid spreading it. And so actually tomorrow we're going to have a contract come in with the support of our forestry aides to remove a lot of those trees. And this is the type of work that this would fund.
Just wanted to jump in. I don't want to lose my quorum to be able to vote on this item here. So I think we have a good sense. Is there any other thing you want to highlight here on this presentation? I think we're nearing the end, right? But I just didn't want to lose a quorum here.
I think we'll be done. Native plants. Okay. Next slide. This is Cape Ivy, which is the only green thing in this image post-fire, which is really responsive to getting pulled out and hauled out. Next slide, please. Corps members could be engaged in removing a lot of that biomass from underneath the tree canopies. Next slide, please. Other way. Next slide, please.
May I suggest if we don't have a quorum,
Member Nev.
you don't have a vote. And I think I'm counting the votes here. You're good,
Okay.
okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Be closing.
Okay, let's do this. Let's do the vote. Advisory committee, and if you could stay for, if there's questions or comments. Pretty comprehensive, but if there's questions or comments.
If not, yes, we do have Alan.
Are there any plans?
Can you speak in the microphone, Mr. Kushbaugh?
I know it's early, but are there any plans at this time to put some kind of a structure on Will Rogers and perhaps bring back some of those relics that you have in Sacramento, bring it back on site. Is there any plan for that?
So we're gonna engage the community and see what kind of direction our users, the family, and all of our key partners at that park to go in. Whether that is a one-for-one rebuild of the ranch or a museum or some variation, I don't know. We'll respect the process. We want to make sure that we.
As a natural for a fundraiser.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of different ideas. We're planning on inviting community members in to share their feedback with us.
Thank you.
But I believe we had yes, please.
Just to give you some history,
Reminder to speak into the microphone, please.
Ali Acker, lifetime Topanga resident, and during after the 78 fire and some of the other fires, we did have Arundo parties where we went in and then would pull out the rhizomes and everything else that we could. Unfortunately, that does grow back, but, you know, I think there'd be a lot of community engagement, especially because like the watershed committee has explained over the years how detrimental, especially because it causes the fire laddering and, you know, burns so hot and therefore it endangers the sycamores and the oaks that are nearby and how dangerous Arundo is. So that's just a side comment. I think you could actually get a lot of people to volunteer to help, just as we helped with the Tidewater Goby or the Steelhead. There are always volunteers in our area for that sort of thing. And then the other thing is the community is very concerned because of all the bulldozing that has taken place in that the photo you had that looks towards, looks south and west. There has been so much activity by bulldozers. There's only a few sycamores left and it's basically, it just looks like just like a lunar scape. And so there's just a lot of concern generally about what's going to happen, what the plan is, why so much earth was moved, what was involved in that. And it'd be great to be able to have information that I can share with the community on that.
Thank you, Mr. Lang.
Yeah, one of the maps.
Please use the microphone.
Thank you. One of the maps you used early on, and it may have been the one of the entire Angeles district, and I think you each used the same map. There was one area in the forefront lower left that there was an area that looked as if it wasn't touched by fire. Do you know what, was it a geographical situation or why wasn't that touched by fire?
Could you show the map? That's the first slide.
We're working on it.
The northern area, the fire didn't get to because of the efforts of the fire department. But I don't think that's what you're referring to.
Part of the reason it didn't burn.
Please use the microphone.
There was a previous fire there that LA County Fire let back burn on a kind of rainy day. And that actually it was a huge buffer for the northern area of Topanga State Park. And that made it possible for resources to get into place and all of that sort of stuff. So that previous fire actually really helped. That runs across next to Eagle Rock, the ridge line.
Are you talking about the area in the middle there?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time with that map.
So
I can see some of it. I can,
So the green area in the middle, yes, that was part of the 2001 Palisades fire incident, which burned 1,300 acres. And so the burn severity in that area was much less. But it's still burned over, but the severity was much less. And then the green area that you're seeing on this map is actually the area that didn't burn. And you can see the different containment lines that were used as defense. Also areas that were heavily oak woodland, once it gets up into the oak canopy, it slows way down. So that also helped the firefighters to be able to contain things.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just before I call the motion, I would just like to say a presentation like this is so important to remind you how much was done, how much we're moving forward, which we can do from such devastation. So thank you. So do I have a motion?
Move
Advisory
approval,
Committee.
Micus.
To the Advisory Committee.
Crowd seconds.
Thank you. A second? Second. Thank you.
Wait a second, we have
Roll
a
call
motion
vote.
from Micus and a second from Kraut.
Correct.
Roll call. Ms. Acker,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Cacchiotti,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad, Ms. Dransfeld,
Yes.
Ms. Fawson,
Yes.
Mr. Garand,
Yes.
Ms. James,
Yes.
Mr. Kishbaugh,
Yes.
Mr. Kraut,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Ms. Micus,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson,
Yes.
Ms. Rosen,
Yes.
Mr. Rossman,
Yes.
Mr. Wendler,
Yes.
Mr. Yagparian,
Yes.
Ms. Newsom,
Yes.
that passes.
Thank you. Conservancy members, is there questions or comments, and a motion and a second?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega.
Second.
Second by Member Pavley. See no questions, and Mr. Fink, you had plenty of comments, so we're good to go. Roll call.
Mr. Alonji? Yes. Mr. Luna has left the meeting. We still have a quorum. Ms. Drake,
Yes.
Mr. Fink,
Yes.
Mr. Ortega,
Yes.
Ms. Pavley,
Yes.
Mr. Veras,
Yes.
that passes.
Okay, next action item is 12K, it's consideration of a resolution authorizing a grant to the Rancho Simi Recreation and Park District for wildlife resilience projects. I do believe we had a member online also available to.
Yes,
Dan?
Mr. Pernick, General Manager. I think are you
Okay,
still on,
great.
Dan? Basically, this
Yeah,
would be continuing the wildfire restoration and resilience efforts in Medea Creek and Oak Park, which really suffered badly in the Woolsey fire. And we've already given certain grants. They've done certain segments of the creek. This would be a comprehensive taking it all out.
Okay.
They've had some delays waiting for fish and wildlife stream bed alteration permits, but hopefully they can go forward with this.
Great. Any other addition to that? I see Dan up on the screen now.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the support. As you guys know, Oak Park's in the critical wildlife corridor between the Simi Hills, goes through the Oak Park community in southeastern Ventura County and heads towards Malibu. We as a district, much like the prior presentation, have done a lot of work on fire resiliency in that area. There's also the county stood up after the Woolsey fire, Ventura County wildfire councils in the communities and one in Oak Park, and this is a important project for them. We haven't been able to do a whole lot of work in the riparian area because of the permitting that's required, but we're moving through that permitting, and this will additional supplemental amount will allow us to complete the entire project that we have planned. And again, thank you for the support.
Advisory Committee?
Advisory Committee, does anyone have any questions for Dan online or on the item itself, 12K? If none, may I ask for a motion?
For approval.
Second,
second.
Micus.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Acker, Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Cacchiotti,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad, Ms. Dransfeld,
Yes.
Ms. Fawson,
Yes.
Mr. Garand,
Yes.
Ms. James,
Yes.
Mr. Kishbaugh,
Yes.
Mr. Kraut,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Ms. Micus,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson,
Yes.
Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rossman,
Yes.
Mr. Wendler,
Yes.
Mr. Yagparian,
Yes.
Ms. Newsom,
Yes.
that passes.
Okay, Conservancy members, is there a motion and a second on the floor? And if there are questions or comments?
Hey, Dan, Ryan Valencia here. Was it already a very high risk fire severity zone, or is it due to the new maps that we're speaking about?
No, it already was. It's in that critical corridor between the Simi Hills and the south. The Santa Ana's blow right through Oak Park from Simi Hills.
Copy. Thank you.
I'll move approval of this item.
I'll second.
Motion by Pavley, second by Ortega, yes?
Yes.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Alonji,
Yes.
Ms. Drake,
Yes.
Mr. Fink,
Yes.
Mr. Ortega,
Yes.
Ms. Pavley,
Yes.
Mr. Veras,
Yes.
that passes.
Okay, congratulations, everyone. We got through these funding requests. We're going to jump back into the reports here on the meeting, and hopefully we'll go through these very quickly and get you off into the great night here. First, chairperson's report. I think I just want to note for the record, Joe did send out comments about staffing at our downtown Los Angeles properties. And, we see the eyes of the world and certainly the eyes of the nation. We're on Los Angeles, and the vast majority of activities that took place in downtown Los Angeles were peaceful. And there's a great deal of effort to ensure that property was not destroyed and that people acted and could exercise their First Amendment speech. There was a wonderful image of community cleanup in Little Tokyo at the Japanese American Museum, which was just a volunteer-based cleanup. But for those that haven't been down there and have seen a lot of the sort of narrow focus, it had, for the most part, been very peaceful protests and expression of First Amendment rights. Did want to note that one of the largest of those activities took place at a park. To put it in context, Grand Park downtown had become a center point for much of that activity. Not gonna, there's a lot of different political perspectives that come to the table here in these meetings, but I want to leave you with this as the chairperson. Next year will mark 40 years since this nation has done comprehensive immigration reform. So with 11 to 12 million people with undocumented status, I think there's probably a time we ask our Congress to get working on a comprehensive immigration reform package. It's due time. So with that, I know continuing with curfews moving, with the continued peaceful protests that are happening, not a lot of coordination. I think the mayor's office and the sheriff's, as we ask for reports here and there, have indicated there's very little coordination with the federal government right now in terms of activities throughout the region. And so I think there's definitely a command center. I had a chance to visit it myself a few days back, where there is, at least at the local level, the state, the county, and the cities are all communicating and coordinating and doing the best they can in terms of the situation. So I'll leave it at that. Next, we'll move to the Coastal Commission's report. Dana's not here, but do we have a report from anyone? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the Coastal Conservancy report with Amy. Attorney General's report, Norma Franklin. Norma? I
Good
see.
evening. The Attorney General's office has nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
Okay, National Park Service. Mr. Alonji.
Issues that we're going to be seeing. So on Friday, the 30th, we lost our FMO, our fire management officer. He's the fire management officer for Santa Monica Mountains, Cabrillo, and Channel Islands. We lost our assistant engine captain. We lost our chief of PSRM, Planning Science and Resource Division. And Ken Lowe, if you know Ken Lowe, a generalist ranger that really did everything for us. And then our entire GIS team. So just wanted to let the team know we will be having some capacity issues and nothing nefarious. Those were all retirees. They took advantage of some early outs, some of them only early by a couple months. But some significant impacts for us locally, and just want everybody to know that. On the bright side, we will have a new to us law enforcement ranger. He'll be here, I think, on the 28th. And we have a new hire, new to us. He'll be starting academy, I think, on the 12th. So a couple LE folks. We do have duty officer coverage for fire incidents and that. But and then Tony Sandrini, who was the FMO, he's going to continue to assist us when he can. But he took a position up at Golden Gate, so he's working now with Golden Gate and Point Reyes and that network up there. So just want to let all the partners know that.
Was this because of Doge?
These were all employees that took advantage of early retirement. So they were eligible or soon to be eligible.
Thank you.
Question. Please use the microphone.
Yeah. That's okay, I'll pass.
Okay, next, State Parks report.
Yes, and some good news. Tomorrow, I'm going to rescind the superintendent order that closes all of Topanga State Park and reopen the park with exception of obviously some areas in Lower Topanga. So tomorrow and in the coming days, you should see some information about some of those, particularly the trails in Central Topanga coming back online. And I believe our partners may have some other trails coming online as well. We coordinated earlier today. So this is really great news. 6 months out from the fire, we're able to get Topanga Park more or less back online to the public. The checkpoints in the Palisades were lifted this weekend, and we were waiting for that to occur. So that's great news. If you can get out to Topanga this weekend, be one of the first to enjoy our trails. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? They lifted those orders. How has it been? Has it been okay?
It's been actually, this is just my opinion of sort of being in the area all the time, but we haven't seen a heavy influx of traffic. Maybe in some areas you have, but everyone that's tried to get into our parks that are closed and have actually been in the parks, they're not supposed to be there, but they've been very respectful of the people that have tried to get into the facilities. So we still have our own checkpoint at Will Rogers preventing people from going into the park. But other than that, we've had no problems.
Great. Next is the Forest Service report. Does everyone know? Okay, Executive Director's report. Joe.
Mr. Chairman and members, I'm very happy to say that similar to state parks, all of the Conservancy properties, with the exception of Temescal Canyon, which is of course heavily impacted, still is by ACOE contractors. And that's probably going to be months before we can start reopening that. But everything else is open. And the state legislature protected their salaries, and they passed a bill that was called the budget bill. It didn't really address any of the important issues. For us, that's Proposition 4. There's no appropriation Prop 4 other than the previous fire appropriation that we got. And so Prop 4, and I think the biggest long-term question is what's going to happen with the cap and trade program and the GGRF money, and all of that will be addressed probably in the last several hours of the legislative session this year.
Okay.
I just want to add that, I think there's some concern for some of us that are watching the bills that are happening and the trailer bill in particular, because the governor is going to put some stuff in the trailer bill. And we keep trying, some of our environmental organizations keep trying to insert language to exempt high fire hazard severity zones from a lot of these like density housing bills. We believe it's really important to exempt high fire hazard severity zones in light of the fires, especially because a lot of these bills are claiming to be responsive to the fires, and yet they're suggesting waiving environmental laws and building infill, but we have infill in the hillsides. So we're working very hard to try to influence the legislators. So anybody here that works for the legislators to insert language to exempt high fire hazard severity zones and also protect Santa Monica Mountains by protecting natural resource areas that have natural resource protection plans. Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy has adopted a natural resource protection plan, and the language in the legislature is a little bit narrow, and if it were broadened a little bit, it would protect the Santa Monica Mountains. So any legislative deputies here, please do note to exempt areas protected by natural resource protection plans. Any other question?
Please use the microphone.
I have a question about that. The zone zero that we keep hearing about, one of the concerns that I've heard and with regard to some of the legislative language was that native trees such as oaks, which we know are ember catchers, and sycamores and walnuts wouldn't be necessarily protected. And so that was a concern that people have brought up to me, just in terms of legislative language, that it was so drastic and draconian that those trees would not receive special dispensation.
So those are all great things that we have covered recently over in the Assembly Member's office. Happy to discuss those things. We have a letter coming out dealing with those specific issues that you've outlined. Happy to talk about cap and trade. The Assembly Member is actually in charge of those negotiations on the Assembly side. And yes, that
I'll send
density
you-
is always an issue.
I'm gonna send you with the language.
Happy to.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you too.
Next is the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority report.
Nothing to add to the previously shared report.
Thank you. Santa Clarita Watershed Recreation Conservation Authority report. Susan?
Nothing to report tonight.
Next is the Wildlife Corridor Conservation Authority report.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Moore Park Watershed Parks Recreation and Conservation Authority report.
No report.
Okay, or reports by staff, Joe? Nope. Questions to staff?
I'm just gonna reiterate, if there's any way we can, I know we're trying to get money for our normal stuff, but again, my plea is to find money to buy open space in the fire ravaged areas for buffer to protect from fire in the future. I'm just putting it back out there.
Member comments, matters not on the agenda. And we're already anxious to close out here. So, okay, there's no closed session scheduled. Our next meeting will be July 21st. And if there's
Mr. Chair, Mr. Anderson online has his hand up.
Mr. Anderson.
Hey, you guys. Yeah, I don't want to cut us off, but just real quick, a quick announcement. So tomorrow in Malibu and in Topanga, we're releasing some salvaged Tidewater gobies from from areas that we were worried would be impacted through sediment deposition in the wake of the fires, and so that's a happy thing. So just like you guys should look for the announcement of the opening of the parks, you should look for that an announcement as well. I would just note that we're starting to see something a bit strange, which is we have not really seen before, which is there's always some people that seem a little skeptical of our conservation efforts. There seems to be a much larger than normal pushback in terms of some of our endangered species work in the wake of the fires, with people saying things like, why should we care about that? How come we're not putting it into homes and what have you? So if you do have an opportunity to perhaps amplify some of the stories or whatever about the securing of this endangered species in additional habitat, we'd very much appreciate it. So thanks, everybody.
I'd like to say one thing to Sean. Mr. Anderson, this is Haylynn Conrad from Malibu, and that's very exciting news. If you'd like to reach out to me so we can do some sort of connected media on the release of them, that would be great.
Oh, that'd be great. The LA Times is going to be there, NBC, ABC News. I don't know if New York Times is going to be there. I'm not coordinating that. My colleagues are. Rosie Daggett from the RCD is the lead wrangler of the media. But absolutely. You're welcome. We're going to be at Malibu Lagoon starting at 10, I believe.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. On that note, thank you for jumping in there and that coordination effort. On that note, we'll stand adjourned.